Hi everybody and welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. This post is from the subreddit Relationship Advice and it's by user Throwaray Help Me. My 28 male wife, 27 female, left me for 3 months and recently begged me to take her back. I said no, and now everyone seems to be against me. I need some advice, strangers. Well, let me give some background information as the situation will be hard to understand without it. 7 years ago, I got married to the girl of my dreams, Denise, fake name. We had been dating for 2 years before that, and it was like a dream come true. That changed after our marriage. After our marriage, she constantly started feeling down and out of it, and eventually, I got her to go to a doctor who sent her to a therapist, and from there, we found out she had depression to do with things from her past that she was trying to forget. I decided to be as supportive as I could. I took care of most of the housework despite working 40 hours a week and told her to just get herself in order, and if she needed to talk to me, I would be there for her. That was 6.5 years ago. Before she left, she was still depressed. She basically only laid in bed and complained. She did nothing. We had no intimacy, no sex, no cuddles, no going out. My entire day was filled with work and housework. Day in and day out, I worked my ass off, came home to a mess of a house and started cleaning up, starting dinner and so forth. At the end of the day, I was exhausted, and all I could expect was for Denise to unload more of her trouble on me and complain about herself, me, and everything around her. I couldn't even hang out with my buddies to get away from it all, as she would relentlessly call me saying she was scared and everything, so I also had no social life. Not that I had time for it anyway. But despite it all, I pushed through, hoping that sooner or later she would break out of it and we could have a proper life together, as I loved her, and as they say, for better and worse, and this was quite clearly worse, possibly the worst it would ever be. 4 months ago, she got a new therapist, and 3 months ago, that therapist suggested she needed time away from me as her depression started when she married, so I may be the cause of it. The moment she told me, I was crushed. I started doubting myself, blaming myself, worrying, but beneath it all, this creeping sense of having done everything for her, having sacrificed years of my life as a cash cow and as a servant for her to lay in bed, and this is my thanks? It is my fault now? But I rejected that feeling, trying to talk through it. But she decided to leave and stay with her mother, saying she needed time away from me and that I may be the cause of her depression and so forth. Honestly, the entire argument is a blur in my head. I spent the next month when she moved out calling her, her family, begging and humiliating myself just to get her back, apologizing for everything I may have done wrong. Honestly, I was close to ending it all as I was so hopeless at that point. But that month passed, and as it passed, I couldn't help but feel relieved. I came home and it was quiet. I could indulge in my hobbies, which I had not done in years. The place was not a mess every time I came home. I could relax, and 2 months in, I even realized I could hang out with my buddies again, grabbing a beer, enjoying life, and slowly I started to realize that I had been miserable this entire time. Slowly, that turned into more and more realizations before I realized I honestly did not love her anymore. I felt like my youth was wasting away. I could do so much better than this. I felt like I was a caretaker of a handicapped old lady. Hell, I still looked good, and as I went out, I started once again gaining back my self-confidence. Women would flirt with me. I felt wanted, even though I never did flirt back. After all these realizations, I suddenly got a call from my wife saying she made a huge mistake. She was sobbing her eyes out and how she was an idiot taking the therapist's words as fact and how much she loved me. For a moment, I wanted to say yes, please come back, but I couldn't. I just blurted it out and said to her she had left me and I was done with this relationship. I told her I would get divorce papers, and I told her I had wasted enough time as it was, and this final action of hers was the nail in the coffin. After that, I just dropped the phone. Started crying for a bit before turning in and feeling liberated. The issue now is that everyone in my family is telling me I am making a mistake. I should take her back. I owe it to her to try and make it work. Marriage is not always fun, etc. The thing is, I never had fun in this marriage. I can't remember the last time I had fun and wasn't miserable. We are both young and fit, and we never even go out. Hell, the last time we had sex is over a year ago. All I am to her is an effing servant, as it seems, and I'd rather live alone than spend one more hour taking care of her. But on the other hand, I doubt myself. Am I really dumping someone that is depressed? I feel horrible about it. I feel like a failure. I just need advice. Well, OP, it is a very difficult situation. I mean, you are still married legally, and yeah, you could get a divorce, definitely. My question here would be, so she just called you to say she made a mistake. Are you guys going to talk about what needs to change? Because yeah, you can't keep living like this. You can't be just the servant and being just for her the whole time and she does nothing but waste away inside your house. I would think that's the first thing I'd do if I was in your shoes. Talk to her and say, okay, well, let's talk about this. What's going to change? What changes are you going to make? Because I can't keep living like we were living 6 months ago. That was torture for me. Also, apparently she spent almost or about 6 years going to therapy and nothing ever changed. So what was the point of therapy? And if that conversation doesn't pan out and there's just no way to reconcile both your point of view and hers, then yeah, I'd consider talking to a lawyer. And what do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section. And now let's check out the community comments. Trextine says, also, the only person who knows what is best for you is you. Those other people were not in your relationship. They have no idea what it was like. Just do what is best for you. You've put yourself to the side for years. And Opie responds, I just finally have time for myself. It feels like heaven, and I'm not even doing anything special. Just finally getting home and playing a game again, reading a book, cooking food I like, having a drink with my friends, socializing, getting attention from women. It just feels amazing. Kinky Scum says, you are fully justified to never take her back. Depression sucks, yes, but she clearly didn't do anything to try to get better. You cannot treat depression by giving in and having someone enable you. No offense, you were just doing what you thought would help. She's been like this for too long. You haven't been happy at all. Please leave. Enjoy your freedom. And Opie responds, hell, I just figured I was giving her room to work on herself, but I may have been enabling her. Campbell090217 says, no, absolutely not. You have clear evidence that your health and happiness are 10 times better when you are not in that relationship. I have debilitating mental health issues and I would never treat my husband like that or blame him for my depression. It's a cruel and awful thing to say to someone who is taking care of you full time. I don't care that she was blindly listening to her therapist. She should have taken 1 minute to think about the relationship from your perspective. You cannot control her actions or behavior, but you can control your boundaries with her. Put up those walls and do not let anyone tear them down, not her or her family. Be selfish and do what is best for you. And Opie responds, I think I had been horribly unhappy for years, but her leaving just sort of was the straw that broke the camel's back. And MDes8578 says, I, 62-year-old female, think that 7 difficult years of what you have been through is enough to compare the newfound perspective you have on your life. 3 months isn't long enough for her to know what to do with herself. She's blaming everyone except herself. Her family and your family expect you to be her caretaker for the rest of her and your lives. You have changed, matured. She hasn't. It sounds like you are trying to break the cycle of enabling. Your families can be over-invested in your relationship. Try not to fall into that trap. You might regret the loss of 7+ years, but that is nothing compared to 40+ more. Opie's edit. Wow, I stepped away from my phone for a while and returned to a ton of comments. Thank you all so much. I will try to read them all. While I have a hard time defending my wife right now, let me clarify something that is popping up in some of the comments. I know for a fact that she did not sleep around with anyone while we were separated. Alright, well, the community is definitely telling OP that he needs to move on from this relationship, and that is a very valid option. So now, let's move on to the update to see how this story ends. Let me start by thanking all the people who responded. There was a lot of insight, a lot of advice, and a lot of support. And while there were certainly a fair share of people just looking for an argument, insulting me, making offensive comments, luckily the vast majority of replies were great and stuff I could work with. Especially those who are in similar situations, and those who are in said situations but are depressed partly proved to give me some insight I sometimes did not even consider. Also, I am sorry for not being able to respond to everyone. I really tried my best to respond, but there were so many comments I honestly couldn't keep up anymore. But rest assured, I tried to read just about every single comment, so your advice likely did not go in vain, and I appreciate it. I ended up having a really good think about my entire situation, trying to wait out whether I would be able to give her another chance to begin with, as despite my post would give away, was actually something I struggled with. I was a bit of an emotional mess after all, and honestly, I sort of lacked control over my emotions. As you might have noticed in some of my responses, sometimes I seemed nostalgic, forgiving, and nice. Other times I seemed vengeful, resentful, and hateful. I will admit off the bat that this is all me, and like I told some people in messages, I was and still am not in the best of places emotionally. But I have been working on getting my own emotions under control the past few days, and I can say I am in a better place than I was a week ago, but it will certainly take some more time for me to recuperate from all of this. Now off to what people were likely looking to see. What ended up happening this week that made me decide to make an update post? Well, after all that thinking, I decided regardless of what course I would be taking, as some people suggested, it would be my decisions and my decision alone. Not the decision of my parents, her parents, friends, or people on the internet. Mine alone. A decision I would be the one living with at the end of the day. So I decided I would inevitably end up regretting it all if I did not at the very least talk to my wife and get some closure. So that is exactly what I did. 2 days ago, I decided to invite her to our home to talk about our relationship, what I would be doing going forward, her depression and so forth, basically just to get it all on the table. Now, it would be impossible to narrate this entire conversation, and honestly, it was about some very personal stuff, so I will instead try to break it down and give a summary of sorts. We ended up discussing our entire relationship. I must admit, it was very awkward and confronting, as it was about a lot of stuff myself in particular had bottled up for so long, it was very hard for me not to start yelling. I told her I was exhausted. I told her everything we had been trying obviously had not been working. I told her I felt like a doormat. I told her she was not the person I married. I told her these 3 months had been liberating for me. I told her I was tired of it all. I told her that I felt like she wasn't doing anything to help herself. I then told her she was not doing anything around the house. I told her a marriage is supposed to be a partnership, but I felt like I was basically married to myself and that I was the only partner in this relationship. Essentially, I unloaded the stuff I had been feeling for years by now. I told her I had a hard time not regretting the day I married her at this point, and while it obviously really hurt her to hear, she told me she knew. She knew I wasn't happy. She knew she had been anything but a partner. She knew she was horrible about it all. However, she felt like whatever she tried, she always ended up fearing getting better, getting demotivated to do anything, and that when she left, she almost felt like she had burdened me enough. That it wasn't for her, but for me, but that she went about it the wrong way and ended up blaming the therapist as an easy way out. While it was true the therapist had guided her in some way towards this decision, the decision she made was for the right reasons, but the explanation she provided was tailored to her, not to me, which was disregarding the therapist's advice entirely. She said she felt guilty about it all, and that guilt was just making her psychological state even worse. She said she hated seeing me going to work, coming home exhausted and having to clean everything up, until I just passed out essentially, which I might add is a massive step for her as she never admitted this. But she started admitting a lot of stuff and apologizing for a lot of things in our relationship. She said her time away made her realize how much I mean to her and how much she took for granted, and that she should have done better a long time ago. I told her I felt like I had been enabling her essentially. While I had tried to keep her to her medication and all of that, at the end of the day, it was always me picking up after her, which probably made it easier for her to slip back into it all. Well, after hours upon hours of talking, we ended up hugging for what seemed like over an hour before going back to talking, and she basically said she understood if I would not take her back. She understood if I did not trust her to get better. She understood that I was tired, but she asked me to give her one more chance, and she would do anything for it. I have to admit, my mind immediately wanted to go to the obvious option, which was not taking her back, not giving her a chance. But honestly, in this discussion, she was the person I was once in love with. She seemed to take ownership of things. She seemed different somehow. But I also knew the risks coming with taking her back, and honestly, I was not about to pull another Hail Mary. So I told her I would be willing to give it a shot, but it wouldn't be like before, not at all. I told her she would have to prove she was going to put in the effort first, before we could even begin. Firstly, I told her she had to get a part-time job. I don't care what sort of job, whether it is waiting tables, at a clothing store, or at some company, it is irrelevant. As long as she made sure to go every single time she was supposed to go, look presentable when going, and made sure she did her best at said job. Secondly, she knows I like going to the gym. As such, she would be going with me at least 3 times a week. Get in shape again, get some exercise in, but most of all, be busy in a healthy way. Third, she is going to help her parents around the house while she stays there. No more sitting in her room alone with her thoughts, groceries, dishes, vacuuming, whatever. She was going to make an effort doing it every single day. Fourthly, as some people suggested, we were gonna go on a date once a week. No more escaping, not wanting to go outside, feeling self-conscious, no more excuses. Fifth, we were going to do couples counseling. I know we tried before, but we will try again. Sixth, she is going to go to a new therapist, not lie about anything anymore and do what the therapist tells her. Seventh, if the therapist suggests medication, she is going to take them every time she is supposed to take them, and I will keep them with me and she will take them in front of me. No more forgetting, no more not taking them, no more complaining, and if there are issues with them, we will try different ones, but regardless, she is going to stick to it. I told her, once we are doing all that, we can go to the next stage of repairing our relationship. But until she does them and keeps them up for a good few months, there is not a single chance I will continue our relationship. And yes, I know ultimatums are a no-no, but I don't think I have much of a choice. To my surprise, she actually agreed, and to my even bigger surprise, despite it only having been 2 days, she was actually helping her mother and father around the house yesterday and has been looking for jobs. Her dad also said she seems a lot more cheerful. Now, I know there is a long road left, and I know there is a good chance this won't work out, and that I should not cheer too early, but honestly, I am hoping I get my wife back, and I felt I owe it to myself to at least allow her this one last chance. Call me an idiot for giving her this chance, but well, perhaps I am an idiot. That was my update. I'm not sure whether I will make another. I had honestly not even planned on making this one. I want to thank the people who responded to my other post again for their insight and advice, and I hope all of you live happily ever after or something. Well, OP, I think this is the update. Absolutely fair. And here's hoping that you do get your wife back, but it seems like it might be a good start. Take care, OP, and thanks for sharing. And now let's finish this video with a mood booster post. This post is from the subreddit Petty Revenge and it's by user redditstories. My ex-roommates mocked me for wanting to lock the door, so I stole a potato peeler from their unlocked apartment. In the summer of 2020, I then, 20 female, moved into an apartment with Joel, 24 male, and Sadie, 23 female, who were best friends with each other and acquaintances of mine from school. It was my first time living outside of my parents' house. The apartment was in a really sketchy area of town. The cops were there multiple times a week, and we had items stolen from our vehicles. This was the best apartment we could afford since we all paid equal rent. Joel was a medical student from a wealthy family, but Sadie and I were both earning well below the poverty line. A constant fight between my roommates and I was over locking the door. They would leave the apartment completely unlocked whenever they left. I repeatedly asked them to please keep the door locked when nobody was home, since my laptop and other valuables were in the apartment. I needed my laptop for work but could not afford to replace it if it was stolen. Every time I asked this, they totally brushed me off and implied that I was being stupid or overly anxious for wanting to lock the door. I was teased and ridiculed for this request on multiple occasions, and they never respected my wishes. They said that if anything got stolen, we could just replace it. I came home on many occasions to an empty apartment with the door unlocked. They were okay roommates other than that, but this was a recurring point of tension. After a few months of living with them, I moved into a different apartment in the same complex with my friend Maggie, 20 female. Maggie and I were very much on the same page about keeping the door locked. We remained relatively cordial with Joel and Sadie and occasionally said hi in the parking lot, but we didn't hang out with them since they weren't taking COVID seriously at all. One evening, I was cooking dinner alone in my apartment, and to my dismay, our potato peeler was nowhere to be found. I scoured the whole kitchen and couldn't find it, and unfortunately, the peeler was essential to the meal I was making. I decided to go see if Joel and Sadie were home and willing to loan me their potato peeler. I walked over to their building. Our keys got us into any building in the complex, went up to their apartment and knocked on the door. No answer. Then something snapped in me. Though I knew I shouldn't, I tried the door, and of course it was unlocked. I went into their dark, empty apartment, grabbed their potato peeler out of their kitchen drawer, took it back to my own apartment, and never said anything to them about it. 6 years later, I still have that potato peeler. Small revenge, but extremely satisfying. Well, Opie, I think it was Harvey Dent that said, "You either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain." Still a petty revenge. Thanks so much for sharing. And that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch it. Now, if you've gotten to this point in the video, I assume that you like these stories that I'm reading out. So here are a couple more that you might enjoy. And if you don't have any time to watch another story right now, save it for later. And also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.